In this video, I'm going to teach you how to make something with clay slabs. Start out with a piece of clay with 2 wooden dowels on either side. We're going to cover it with a cloth so it doesn't stick to our rolling pin and roll it out. You want to have those wooden dowels on either side so the rolling pin doesn't actually get too close to the table and you have a consistent thickness. Once you have it the thickness you want, carefully peel it off of the canvas. Now we're ready to cut out our main shapes. I'm starting with a square for the bottom. You can really make any kind of shape. You could make a cylinder, you could make a heart-shaped container, and I chose to make a rectangular shaped box. You could also use paper templates that you make ahead of time to trace and cut out your shapes. I'm just using a straight edge and I'm lining up my, my clay with the bottom of my pot, this little piece of clay that's a square, so that I know that the walls of the clay pot are going to fit. Once I cut out all 4 walls and the bottom of my pot, I'm ready to join those pieces together. Now, this step is really important. What we're doing is a technique called score and slip, and as you can see, I'm using a needle tool to score or rough up the edges that are about to be joined together. Then I dipped my finger in the slip, which is just a mixture of water and clay, and it kind of acts like a glue, and that's going to join my clay together. I'm also going to use a tool, and I can use my fingers to really join those 2 pieces of clay well. It's going to be a little bit floppy because I just have the 2 sides, so you notice earlier I used that little green container to prop up one of the sides. Do whatever you need to do to keep your clay stable while you are joining that corner. You're going to continue to score and slip each side that you attach to your clay pot. So I'm doing that again with this side, and I'm just going to continue until all 4 of the walls are attached really well to my pot. One thing you want to be careful of when you're joining these together is because the clay is really soft, you don't want to smush it out of shape as you're joining the walls together. So even though you want to apply some pressure and you really want those sides to stick together, you don't want to end up stretching the clay out of shape or making a hole because you've pressed it too thinly. So just be careful. Sometimes I think about using a tool like this almost kind of like I'm spreading peanut butter on a slice of bread. As we're putting the last pieces of this pot together, I want you to notice that I try to use my one hand on the inside to support the clay as I'm pressing it together on the outside. If you would like to add a lid, you can do that pretty easily. Here I'm putting a piece of paper and just rubbing my finger across to get an imprint of the exact shape of the top of my pot. Tracing it with a Sharpie, kind of making myself a template to help me as I cut out a new piece of slab for the lid. So I'm just going to cut it out. Make sure that it's the right size, and then I'm going to trace it with a needle tool onto some leftover slab. Once that's done, I can use my template again, kind of trace over it. I'm just pressing a little bit through the paper so when I lift it, the indentation is there and I can see that's the inside of the pot. These little pieces are going to help keep the lid on so it doesn't move to one side or the other. It stays on there nice and snug. Now again, I'm going to score and slip to get these to stick, making sure they're the inside of that line so I know that they fit inside the upper lip of the pot. I'm using both my fingers and also some tools to really get that piece of clay to stay on there while still maintaining the shape of the lid. And of course you're going to repeat those steps with the other 3 sides so that you've got a ledge all the way around the lid. Now I'm going to check and see that my lid fits. Yay, it does! I also want to be careful as I'm peeling it off not to lose the shape. So I'm just going to set it back down and add a handle. I'm going to cut another piece of slab, kind of like a ribbon, and test it out and see that I like the shape and size of it. I'm going to trim it just a little bit. I like this style of handle because there's a lot of surface area that can stick to the lid. I'm going to score and slip it so that it sticks really well. Okay, one thing to not do is to pick up this thing by its handle right now, and you'll notice I'm putting my hand through there and I'm applying some pressure so it'll stick, but I'm not ever gonna pick it up by the handle. I really want the handle to stay on, and as it dries, sometimes it wants to crack apart, so we're really gonna make it stick together. That's why I'm using this tool to smudge together all those little areas and really join it well. And I'm just gonna do that all the way around the handle so that I know it's securely attached. Now I'm going to use my little yellow sponge to smooth out any little rough spots, any little corners that seem a little sharp, and just to make my lid and handle a little smoother. Now I'm going to do the same thing to the top of my pot, making sure all my corners are smooth and not too sharp. If you want to, there's other tools like this rubber tipped tool that you can use to get into some of those tight spaces and help with some smoothing or just manipulating the clay. And at this point, my lid and my pot are pretty much done. I'm just making sure that they fit together, and I'm going to use a sponge again to smooth out any areas, even out any areas where the lid and the base of the pot may not fit together. And we're just about done. As I let this dry, getting it ready to fire, I'll probably loosely cover it with some plastic so that it dries gradually, since it's such a large piece and since it has a lid. Thanks for watching, and I hope you guys enjoy using slab construction to make your pot.